Welcome, Georges Kern, to the Executive Talk. In the age of mobile phones, in the age of computers, in the age of watches everywhere, honestly, why would someone still need a watch on their wrist?
Because of the emotion, of the lifestyle, of the beauty, of the feelings it generates. A watch is not a commodity. Time you can have, and indeed you see time everywhere around you. A car is a commodity. Transport becomes a commodity. And probably sooner or later we'll drive in an iPad with 4 wheels, and everything which makes a car emotional, the sound, the smell, the speed will disappear because you will also have autonomous driving. With the watch, it's totally different. It's not a commodity. It's a piece of art. It's a piece of handmade specialists, and you always relate it to a feeling and eventually to a memory. So it's why I think watches will be there. Classic analog Swiss watches will be there forever. And in a way, I also believe, by the way, that analog watches or analog products are the new luxury.
We'll talk about that luxury later. It's just that already from your first answer, you can really tell, watches are your passion. You love watches, don't you?
I hope that I love watches after being in the watch business
for all your professional life.
Nearly my whole professional life. I was for a very short period of time in fast moving at Kraft Jacobs Suchard, which was an amazing experience, I must say, because you learn as a young student or after university, you learn how to work in a very structured way. And I would always recommend anybody to go to work for a consultancy company or fast-moving goods company. But then once you're in the luxury industry, once you deal with products of an industry which is very small, it's a very tiny industry, but wherever you go in a dinner party, everybody would start to talk about the watch or the new Breitling or this and that. It's phenomenal, and it's something which goes very close, I think, to the people's heart, in particular also men's heart.
A lot of people have watches, if not everyone has a watch. And do you ever find yourself in a kind of déformation professionnelle way that if you're at a party that you keep looking at somebody else's watch?
All the time.
And what do you think when you look at them?
I look at shoes and I look at the watch, and it tells you everything about the person. And I think it is very important to have nice quality shoes, even if you wear jeans. And I think it's very important to have a nice watch.
So if you see let's say, a top manager with a cheap watch, what do you think of him?
Cheap doesn't mean bad. So if you wear an Apple Watch, I would have no problem. It's not.
Which is cheap in price, but not in image
terms
or in
of
function.
Image and function. If it's cheap in image and function, then I think I would ask myself, how can I help this gentleman?
People who can't be helped probably are people who are wearing fakes, who are wearing the watches bought in, I don't know, on every Thailand or every market around the world. Breitling is a heavily copied brand as well. What do you make of that? It could be a compliment if you look at it the other way.
It is a compliment because only successful products are copied, not only in watches, but also in fashion, in leather goods, etc. But anyway, people buying a watch on a beach in Phuket, these are not the customers who would buy a real expensive Swiss watch. So in a way, you cannot fight this, because even if you go against these producers, with your lawyers, with your IP department, one day later it's their brother or their son or their grandmother opening another store. So you cannot fight it. But I'm not so much worried about these kind of cheap copies. I'm more annoyed, I would say, when other big brands are copying some of our ideas.
Does that happen?
Of course it happens. And if you ask me examples, I will not give you some examples, but I had this all my life in different brands, and we had to sue a couple of companies on that to protect our IP.
How difficult is that? I mean, the more successful you are with a brand, the more you're getting copied. not in a replica way, but really, as you say, in a kind of a same style. I mean, does that hurt, or again, is it like a compliment, or is it a lost cause to fight it?
It's annoying. Thank God, thanks to digital, the public is speaking about it, and in most of the cases defending the original. But still, these guys are making money with ideas which are not their own. And it's why, when it's possible, and it's tricky, I agree, legally it's very tricky, we should always try to fight these counterfights.
How do you know what a good idea is? You talked about, like if it's successful, it works well. With watches, you pretty much, maybe fish in a dark sea. You don't really know what's appealing. However, if you hear one thing about Georges Kern in the industry, it's really like he has got it. He knows what success for watches should be like. Where did you get that from?
Okay, I give you a very short answer and give you a little longer answer. The short answer is I made so many mistakes that with time you know what works and what doesn't.
It's trial and error.
In a way, well, you don't do it because you want to do trial and error. I mean, you do it because it happens. The point is, the more complicated answer, but which I think is a more meaningful answer, is you don't buy a watch, you buy a brand, you buy an image, then you buy an aesthetic, you buy a function, you buy a package. You never buy a watch, and it's not a watch as a single piece which is successful. It's a package which is successful. So it's why it is so important to work on your brand image. I'm convinced that if you go into a store, you buy a car, you first make a choice. Okay, I'm a Mercedes driver, I'm a BMW driver, I'm an Audi driver. Once you made that decision because you identify to this company or a woman, to Giorgio Armani or to Versace, then you go, okay, now what do I want? What model do I want? What design do I want? And then you decide on the movement or on the engine. And this is exactly what happens in the watch industry. You first decide on an image, what do I identify with, then with a design, and then with a function. So it's a holistic approach, phenomenon we are facing here.
Would you say you were the first one to get that idea, that really people are buying a concept, a brand, an idea, and then go for the watch?
No, I think more and more companies, obviously, I mean, there are many successful companies out there who do this and who have been there for many years. But what is true, though, that certainly still today, I would say still today, the marketing is less professional in our industry than in many other industries, like, for instance, in the fast-moving industry or in the fashion industry. Still, it is very much, which is true, still is very much focused on manufacturing, production, etc. Whilst people don't understand that for most of the customer, it's a conditio sine qua non. You don't question if you buy a 10 or 15,000 leather bag from a luxury brand. You don't question the quality of the leather. It's given, so it's a conditio sine qua non. It's the same thing for us. Our movement, the quality of our movement, the functionality, the service, the guarantee, it's given. It's given. It should be given, and then you have to work on more than on these aspects, which at that price point have to be of the highest quality. Mm-hmm.
Quality watches are a very traditional thing in Switzerland. However, you kind of broke a tradition, or you kind of shocked the industry last year. You went from IWC, after 15 years, I think you've been there, to Breitling. You kind of changed your life, your professional life. How difficult was that?
Of course, when you work for many years for a company, you're emotionally attached because especially after 15 years, it's like, being married and then you divorce and you see all your products, which are all your children, which are there. So it has it has an emotional impact. But I always wanted to do also stuff for myself. And I had the opportunity with CVC to enter into the capital of Breitling.
CVC is the company behind
CVC,
Breitling,
which is
and you
private,
own 5% of the shares, right?
If you say so, it must be true. It's a unique opportunity. I had many offers over last years, but you need a critical mass. You need financial critical mass to move things. It doesn't make sense to run companies for a couple of millions or dozens of millions, because you need to invest in marketing, in development, in distribution, and all this. You need cash flow, etc. So you need a critical mass, and Breitling has at that time already been a very successful company, very profitable. So it had these means, and then the potential of the brand to extend into the Asian market, or to extend into a new customer base in our existing market. That was really the thing which attracted me.
Was it in a way like taking over a hidden champion? Because it's not one of the biggest brands, let's say, but it's a very traditional brand with a name. So it had the right size for you. Could you say that?
As I said, the size is quite substantial. I mean, Breitling is the fourth largest brand in the US, in the UK, in Japan, so it's huge. And in a way, it's a proven concept, okay? So when you say hidden champion, I would say it is a champion which should also be known in other countries in the world, because it is a champion already. But because of the ergonomy of the products we had at that time, which were extremely big and in a way loud, this wouldn't fit the Asian market. And with these products, you're restricted also in your European markets or American markets in a very specific customer base. And the idea is now to extend that power, if you want, that power of Breitling towards a new customer base in Europe and in the States, and therefore also be able to reach a new customer base in Asia.
We can sense you're already in that. You've already settled in your new role. But it kind of struck me when you said, leaving a company after so many years is almost like leaving your wife or leaving your family behind. You owned a lot of watches from IWC, from Richemont. What happened to those? I mean, do you have to give those away?
I still own them.
You just can't wear them, or how do you do that?
I love them because, I was part of the development of these watches. And I agree with you, it takes time. When you after so many years, you move through the doors of a new company, in a way it's weird, because first of all, you don't know your colleagues, you don't know the people, you don't understand the brand, you don't have the knowledge of the brand, and nothing of this company you work in is from you. So you feel like a kind of, external element. But with time, in putting your team together, in starting projects, in launching new products, new advertising, new elements, you identify more and more and more. So, it's like a soccer player playing a couple of years at Bayern Munich and then going to Madrid. He still loves Bayern Munich, but he now has to score for Madrid.
What did that mean for the team? I mean, let's say if you're kind of the Ronaldo of the watch industry, you're very well known in Switzerland. You have your reputation. Everybody knows how you work. Did you ever feel that the rest of the team was kind of not scared of you, but maybe had some kind of reservations, or now we're all getting, I don't know, Kernized or something like that in the new company?
There are always rumors and there are always things like that, and then it's about the reality in your daily relationship with your colleagues. When you're in such a transformation phase as we are now at Breitling, and build your team, there's three elements or three categories you need to identify. The ones who definitely don't want to be part of the new story, who have been so much linked to the previous history, successful history, and they just don't want it. And
were there a lot of those?
A couple, which is human, which is normal, which I don't judge, and I totally understand. Then you have a second part of people you need to and you want to convince because they're pillars in the company, and you need to convince about the new vision, the new strategy, and the new ideas. And then the third element is bringing in new blood. And if you achieve that mix, then you can create a culture which fits the new ambition of the company, I would say.
How much was that a goal of yours as well? That I mean, you've worked for the same company for a long time. After IWC, you shortly went to Richemont as head of the whole watch department. Was that part of the change as well? That you said, I want to do something new. I want to work with new people. I mean, put it a little bit, bluntly, were you a bit bored by your old job that was always the same? Did you need to change as well?
To be honest, thank God, I've never been bored in my whole life. Even in my previous life, actually, because you're developing yourself, you're growing the company. It's like in soccer, you're coming from the third division, second division, first division, Champions League. I mean, this is what happened. So as a coach of these teams, you never do the same thing. You evolve, you have new players, you have new tactics, and this is what happened in my previous life. So I've never had the same job over the last 25 years, I would say. So it was not about being bored or not. It's more about what is your your character, your personality, what do you want to do? Are you a front man? Are you an office guy? What do you want to do? Are you more attracted towards entrepreneurship, or if you have the opportunity? And that was, at the end of the day, the point which made me change.
You didn't want to be a corporate guy, you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But again, as I said, it doesn't fall from the sky. Many people want to be many things, and it never happened. And I was lucky enough to be able to meet with CVC, and with the deal team of CVC, which are, by the way, great people, and that we found an agreement.
Mm. Do they ever get in your way, or do they tell you what to do, or are you quite independent on everything regarding the future of Breitling?
I mean, let's face it. They're investors. They hold the majority of the shares. At the end of the day, they are in command. On the other side, the beauty of private equity is that everybody's aligned. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I have my money in the company. My colleagues, many of my colleagues of my management team has their money in the company. CVC and the deal team have the money in the company. So we are all aligned. All our interests are totally aligned. If we are successful, we will be successful together. If we fail, we will fail together. It's not about being in the way of somebody. And one of your colleagues asked me, Mr. Kern, but private equities, they fire quickly and blah, blah, blah. Trust me, if I fail and I'm fired, being fired is my smallest of my problems, mm-hmm. because my money will be gone. Mm-hmm. So we are all aligned.
How do you live at that risk in a way? I mean, you're an entrepreneur now. Did you ever have, I don't know, sleepless nights, changing in that role and really being part of the company now?
No, I mean, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. If you don't like risks, and then we have to define what is a risk. I mean, you can go, you don't even go to a private company, you can go to public service and be an administrator somewhere. So I'm not afraid of the challenge or of the risk. That's not which is keeping me awake. What we want to do is, how can we win the game? I mean, how can we bring that company to the next level? How can we reach our objectives? And this is really the challenge.
Of course, you've been in that game, in that business for a long time. We said it. How important was it that you kind of have that in your DNA already? I mean, you're from Germany. Your father was a jeweler, well known. So you've been in touch with those goods from early on. Did that help in your career path? Did that help in understanding the business better?
I think that was destiny, to be honest. But because my father always wanted, the only thing he always said is parents are in charge of education. So I was fortunate enough that my parents were able to finance my university, be it in France or in Switzerland. And I agree with that. And this is what I'm also telling my children. After that, you have to, to live your life and to do what you have to do. And as I said, I started my career in fast-moving consumer goods. Then I went to Tag Heuer. And this was destiny because at that time, Kraft Jacob Suchard was based in Neuchâtel, Tag was in Neuchâtel. And it was destiny. I mean, my brother took a total different path. He's in finance. So it's destiny. On the other side, where I agree with you, of course, it's, when you're raised with jewelry, with beauty, with art, with culture, it facilitates the process in such an industry, which is about beauty, taste, culture, and art. But it was never planned like that. And you can also be a finance guy and be extremely cultivated and extremely knowledgeable in art. One doesn't exclude the other. The only thing I'm saying to your point is, yes, it does facilitate a lot, to understand the customer at the end of the day, who is spending a lot of money on our products.
On the other hand, I read somewhere that I think you were asked what the biggest advice was you got from your children. It was like you never expect them to be like yourself. And how important is that to you? That you had that kind of career, but it doesn't have to go on, or you don't have to give it over to your children. They have to look for their own path, like you did in a way.
I'm very proud about what they're doing because my son is now at Rhode Island School of Design, which is a design school. My father was a design. The problem, real talent jumps a generation. So my son has it now. He has a design talent. My daughter is going for opera a singer. So I have only, artists in the family. And I wish them luck. But they have to do what they want to do. And if this is their passion, they have to go for it. Again, it's what I said earlier. What we need to do as parents is to finance and help them in their studies and to ensure that they get the best education possible. But then it's when you're 20. Then it's over. When you're 24, you finish your studies. You have to find your job and do it yourself.
We ended with quality again. We've come full circle. I asked you in the beginning what a watch means to you. Last question. In every interview we read about Georges Kern, there's always talks about his suits, his ties, his shoes. You've been talking about cars as well. How important is style to you? I have the impression you're an extremely stylish and style-focused person. Is that true?
It's about beauty. At the end of the day, it's about lifestyle and it's probably also due to the fact that I lived so many years in France. And it's why we say, in German, like God in France. The French people have a quality of having a phenomenal quality of life with phenomenal bread, with great cheese, great wine, beautiful countrysides, with little money. And this is quality of life. And I believe that we should optimize our quality of life and our lifestyle, and if we can, have this beauty in shoes or in watches or in clothes or in cars, let's do it. Because what do you want to do with your money? Take it in your grave? You want to be the richest guy, in your grave? It doesn't make sense. I think let's help the economy, put the money also back into the economy, in the flow, and produce these products. And we'll create more jobs, and everybody will be happy.
Georges Kern, thank you very much.
Thank you.